All right, there's been a new prefix request from Ben Giori on the Bioregistry, so I'm going to walk you through what it takes to review one of these requests. So I'm in the Bioregistry's GitHub issue tracker. We can see that we've got add prefix chemo, and it's got a new and a prefix tag because the proper issue was sort of filled out and it got all of these nice templates to it. So let's take a look at what this says. So we've got a prefix chemo. This refers to the COVID-19 epidemiology and monitoring ontology. The homepage is actually pointing to a GitHub repository, so that's kind of interesting. I'm not going to read through the description, but this looks all right. This is interesting that it's got kind of local unique identifiers that aren't numbers, so typically this isn't very good, but we've got a regular expression pattern to match them, so there's nothing wrong with that. There's no URI format string, so like there's no website that can be used to create a page for each of these. Sorry about the coughing. All right, we've got the contributor information, and we've also got contact information about the person who kind of is responsible for this ontology. So this is great. When an issue gets sent, it automatically creates a pull request, so it's already linked to the pull request that goes with it. So let's take a look at 594. So it appears Ben's already made a little suggestion, so I'm going to go ahead and just commit that directly before even working on. Oh, diff has been updated. All right. Well, I don't know about that. I've seen this issue before. We can just make this change manually. Okay, let's take a look at the diff, though. And so we can see there's some contact information added, some contributor information added. We've got the suggestion, and then we've got the description, example, GitHub issue request that automatically gets propagated, the homepage, the name, the pattern. Yeah, so this is great. We need to add a couple things, including like who did the review. So usually what I do is I come back to the conversation, or actually no, I hit the code button and then check out with GitHub desktop. And this kind of takes care of all this stuff. So here's my GitHub desktop, and it's just going to switch me from main to the pull request, which has this kind of funny looking name, but it's automated. All right, so let's come back to PyCharm, where I've already got the bioregistry open, and here's the source, the bioregistry, the data, and then the bioregistry.json. So I'm going to go ahead and search inside here for chemo. Great. So the first thing I'm going to do is add like the reviewer information. So that's going to be me. So reviewer is another tag. And let's try and find just somewhere where I've done this before so I can copy paste my information. Okay. So yeah, you should fill out like your email address, GitHub, name, ORCID. All right, so what can we actually do about this this entry itself to make some improvements? The first thing is noting that like the home page is actually referring to a GitHub repository, so we're going to duplicate that field and put the repository field. The second thing we can do is actually take a look at this repository, see if we can find some new extra information. So I can see that there's a CC0 license, so we can actually annotate that in ourselves as well. There isn't enforcement of controlled vocabulary like SPDX for licenses right now. We might do like a cleanup for that in the future, but for now I think CC0 is good enough. This is telling people interesting, useful information. Okay, so let's see what else. Let's double check into this contact and see if we can find more information about this person. I'm pretty sure that this is their GitHub handle, so we're going to copy paste that in. And it might be the case that they list their email address publicly, and so if that's the case, then we should be able to add that as well. So we could check their WordPress, we could check their ORCID. Sometimes people list their emails there. I typically wouldn't add the email address of a person that I happen to know what it is, like privately, but if there's public information of it being like available, then it's fine. So, personal website, that's a place people list their email addresses sometimes. Here it is. Now we have to do a little bit of unobfuscation. I'm not sure if this is really a thing anymore. I could write a program that just knows to take the ats out and put an at symbol in. All right, so next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop up the terminal, and I'm gonna change directory into my bioregistry, and this automatically, I'm using virtual fish, so it automatically activates my environment. I'm gonna run bioregistry lint, and that's gonna sort of reorganize the JSON file into a canonical format. All right, now we're gonna pop back in here and notice that things got reorganized, like in alphabetical order. So let me carefully read the description. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, all right. Now I'm going to go back to GitHub Desktop and check out my changes. So I've added some information to email, the GitHub license pattern. Actually, there's one thing I forgot is that, okay, we forgot to add the M for Ben. I think that sometimes we want to look around and also for the contributor find an email address, but this is fine. We can leave that. So I think we're done and we're ready to push this back. So as like a bioregistry review team member, we have push access to the bioregistry repository, which means when people make pull requests, we should be able to push onto their branches. So let's come back to Firefox and let's jump back into this pull request. And so now if we get updated, so I'm gonna hard refresh this page because sometimes GitHub does some funny stuff. Okay, so this change is a little bit out of date now, so I'm gonna just hit resolve on it. Let's double check the full diff. All right, this is looking pretty good. Ideally, new bioregistry entries have a URI format string with them. So if the person who makes a submission doesn't send a URI format string, you want to ask them for one. Sorry, but it looks like this ontology just is some artifact that kind of got created during the pandemic, and so there isn't like a massive amount of support to go with it. Maybe they didn't submit it to the bioportal or to the Obo Foundry. But let's try one more thing just before we're done. Let's jump back to that GitHub repository. And let's actually go inside the OWL file itself, because it turns out this is an ontology. An OWL file sort of expect there to be URLs going with things. And so we can look around inside here and probably guess what the URL format string is supposed to look like for terms inside this ontology. So let's keep looking. See, I see a lot of imports from other ontologies. We haven't seen any novel terms yet. Okay, here's a novel ontology term. So it looks like this ontology is kind of using pearls from Obo library, which means it's probably using Protege for its curation. It's getting these kind of artifacts. So this isn't really a meaningful Obo pearl, but it's just kind of formatted in there. So in fact, we can actually use this. So what we're going to do is come back to our PyCharm, and we're going to add this URI format in, because it turns out that inside the ontology, this is the way that the terms look. So again, this is complication rate. Seems like it's the actual term in the vocabulary, and then this is the URI prefix. And so the way this works in the bioregistry in the URI format is you put the URI prefix, and then after that you put $1 as sort of the placeholder. And the reason that we do this instead of just putting the URI prefix is because sometimes there's some extra stuff that comes after it, like .html, not in this case. So let's bioregistry one more time. Let's push it. Okay, so see, it's found that I forgot to type something in JSON. So I forgot a comma, so thank you, checker. Okay, now URI formats don't necessarily resolve to anything, as we're going to see that these UR formats probably are totally dead. I mean, this one doesn't even make sense. It refers to like a file and then just uses an anchor after it. However, even if it doesn't resolve, it's still kind of useful to know that this is how URIs are constructed inside ontologies, because it allows us to parse them into nice queries. Okay, so let's make a push and then come back to GitHub for one final look. All right, all we have to do now is wait for all of these tests to run and pass, and I'm guessing they're going to, since I don't think we made any typos. But yeah, so I'll link to this pull request in the description of this video, and then you can take a look at kind of what happened after all of these finished. But I think that we're ready to merge. So thanks for watching.